Good morning, Saints fans. John Hendrix here for Saints News Network alongside Brendan Boylan, coming at you live inside the Mercedes-Benz Superdome to preview the Saints and Falcons in an important Week 11 NFC South showdown. Brendan, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited as anybody to kind of see something that we haven't seen in 15 years, what could be a potentially completely different offense.
Yeah, it's weird. I was thinking about it today. I'm like, man, the last time this really happened, obviously you see Teddy Bridgewater, but I was thinking about Luke McCown. That time he started for the Saints against the Panthers in 2015. That was just kind of the vibes I got, and he came out just fine. Obviously, that's going to be the biggest storyline of this game is that there's no Drew Brees. He is present on the sidelines. He's kind of going through there. Sean Payton talked on Friday, said, hey, look, he's kind of really valuable as a coach, really going to bring a lot of knowledge, hopefully some coaching on the sideline as this game progresses. But let's start here, Brendan. Why did Sean Payton go to Taysom Hill, and why is it so shocking for people to understand and comprehend that?
Well, I think the reason is if you go back all the way over the last 2, maybe even 3 years if you want to, what's the one thing Sean Payton said? The next quarterback of the Saints is in this locker room. And at the time, a lot of people thought he was alluding to Teddy Bridgewater. But then those reports and those sayings coming out of Payton's mouth remain true even after Teddy's departure this offseason. So he's had a lot of faith in Taysom Hill from the very beginning. And you could call it maybe even a little bit of a man crush with Taysom Hill. But we've seen it throughout the years. So why is it so shocking? I think the initial thought for maybe a lot of Saints fans is Jameis threw for 5,000 yards last year. Jameis's arm with some of these receivers might make a little bit more logical sense in the system in which they play. But here's why it shouldn't be surprising. Taysom Hill's been in the system now for 3 years. Right, and you listen to what some of these receivers say, and one that I'll pull is specifically Deontay Harris, who said, every time I see Drew, I see Taysom. And what he meant by that was Taysom Hill is essentially in Drew's back pocket all the time. If it's film, if it's extra reps, Taysom's ready for this moment. He's been groomed in this moment. And again, if you want to even go back to earlier this offseason, when Sean Payton was talking about Taysom Hill and the extension that he signed, he said that Taysom did deserve a chance to be the number 2 quarterback. He's earned that right, and here he is being the true number 2 quarterback.
Yeah, and it's been reflective on the depth chart, right? I mean, and if you follow this whole entire thing, and it's just so funny because of people, everybody's got an opinion on this, right? And so you see what he did against Minnesota in the playoff game. I mean, he was the reason why they were able to really get in there, obviously, and kind of make it a game because Drew was struggling a little bit, interior line was struggling and such. I mean, he was a restricted free agent coming in, right? And so with Taysom Hill, look, he's a guy that Sean Payton had talked a lot about what they wanted to do, envision him a little bit. Then you kind of get a little piggyback from Jay Glazer, and he talks about how they view him as the future of the quarterback. Sean just basically loves him. And look, you guys should know as more than anybody, right? If Sean Payton loves a player, they're going to make it work, right? And this guys like Deontay Harris, Tommy Lee Lewis, even is somebody that Sean Payton kind of really fell in love with too. But for me, it's not that surprising. Again, you pay him some money, and then we're sitting here. He's been listed at second on the depth chart. We just got a lot of people out there who just don't understand, I guess. And look, Sean Payton, I think he's going to be smart with his play calling, and that's why I brought up something like Luke McCown earlier, because Sean Payton had a game plan for that game, and McCown was 31 of 38, I think 300 and something yards. Did throw a pick, but he was efficient that day. Now, I don't think there's anything about Taysom and his limitations of being able to move the football and do things right offensively. But, let's talk about it, Brennan. Atlanta's seen Jameis Winston 9 times in his career, right? Winston's 4 or 5 against them. It's pretty successful. So what are some of your expectations for Taysom Hill today?
Well, you want to go back to that Jay Glazer report, and a lot of that came about Taysom Hill potentially being a Lamar Jackson-esque player. And in that, I see the Saints maybe not throwing the ball as much, right? And I wrote it in our Keys to Victory piece as a group this morning, was that even if the Saints only throw the ball 15 times, that does not mean that this offense is going to be ineffective, right? You could see 10 quarterback powers in this game. We saw Taysom Hill as a fullback run the option against the Bears last year, right? Or he ran it and was able to flip it out to Burton, the fullback. So, I mean, you could see this team get really creative in those aspects. I expect it to be very much Taysom Hill's team, right? Taysom Hill's not Drew Brees. And if we want to even go further than that, there is no other Drew Brees that will maybe ever play in the league again. So don't try to take a round peg and try to fit it in a square hole. Let Taysom Hill be Taysom Hill. You're going to see a lot of running the football from the quarterback position today, and I expect to see a shot or two. We see that Taysom's got a rocket arm, but they're probably going to simplify it a little bit. But this is going to be a real Taysom Hill offense. This isn't going to be a Drew Brees-led offense that we've seen the last 15 years. To your point, they're going to game plan around this guy.
Yeah, and it's a sobering thought to think, maybe we've seen Drew Brees play the last game against the Falcons, right? He's put on injured reserve. He's got 11 cracked ribs, and obviously he's out here. He was bending over, picking up some stuff and moving. I don't know how, but that's just Drew Brees. So I think the target date for his return would be against Kansas City. But look, going back to what you're saying about Taysom Hill, could you just imagine this, right? You got Thomas on the field, you got Cook, you got Sanders, then you've got Kamara and Murray as split backs, and then you got Taysom Hill. You don't know what's coming, right? It could be a handoff to Murray. It could be something to Kamara, or it could be Hill. And so, again, I don't think there's a wildcat situation or an option situation necessarily that you're going to say this is what's going to happen. But if you're the Falcons defense, you've got to respect it, right? Because you don't know what's going to come. And I think Sean Payton's going to use a lot of different personnel here. Obviously, Josh Hill is big for on the offense. I remember him talking at length about Josh Hill, just saying they had, roughly like 30, 40 plays at one point last year, revolved around him. So hopefully he returns. They elevated Garrett Griffin from the practice squad. They've got a good one in rookie Adam Troutman, and then obviously Jared Cook, who's a little bit slumping right now. So, look, aside Taysom Hill, on the other side of the ball, there's no Marshawn Lattimore in this game. So let's talk defensively for a second. Do they have enough with Patrick Robinson and Janoris Jenkins to slow down Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones and Matt Ryan?
Well, I think the first thing is there is no slowing down Julio Jones. You can try to contain it, but, he's a Hall of Fame guy. If you were retired today, he's in the Hall of Fame. He's a one-of-a-kind talent. But I do think, Patrick Robinson, though he's got a lot of heat from Saints fans, especially after coming back with that big contract and really not performing and not staying healthy, he has put up some pretty decent performances. And even last week when filling in for Lattimore, had the interception in the end zone. If you want to go back to week 4 against Detroit, I thought he had a very good game against the Detroit Lions. So I think the Saints have enough on the back end to certainly not allow Matt Ryan to have the game of his life. And obviously when you see a guy as much as the Saints have seen Matt Ryan, you kind of know what's coming. You do have a game plan for it. I think the big thing in this game is you don't want it to become a shootout. You don't want to see some of those mental lapses from earlier in the season. And fortunate for the Saints, you haven't seen that a whole lot lately. You can't let these guys get behind you, but they got a lot of talent. I think Calvin Ridley's a guy that is continuously underrated in this league and is probably overshadowed by the star power that is Julio Jones. But remember, Ridley had a heck of a game against the Saints in this building last year.
Yeah, and look, for me, it's obviously going to be about the pass rush. Cam Jordan is a guy who hasn't really done much on the stat sheet, but Atlanta, he kind of shines, right? And I think it's 4 out of the last 5 games he has at least 2 sacks or more. And then, 18 career games against the Falcons, he has 18 sacks. So, look, he's a sack artist. And Matt Ryan, we know what happened last year on Thanksgiving. They sacked Ryan 9 times, picked him off twice. And obviously, this time around, Cam Jordan's a guy that they need. Trey Hendrickson is kind of was held out last week and didn't have much as far as stat production. Marcus Davenport's been on the rise. So, look, I think their pass rush, another game with Quan Alexander, may make it a bit tough on Matt Ryan. And look, I don't know if they're going to be able to run the football against the Saints. Getting Malcolm Brown back after, he exited last week's game with a calf injury is going to be big to help control the run. So, look, I feel good defensively here. But, again, I feel like this game obviously can go either way. Atlanta's a better team than obviously what their record says. They've done pretty well under Raheem Morris right now. Maybe they're able to make a run here. We just don't know. But at the end of the day, Brandon, what does Atlanta have to do to come in here and get a win?
Well, I think first you have to control the first 15 minutes. You're going to get defensively, that is. You're going to get a completely different feel from the Saints offense, like we've alluded to for most of the pregame show, than what you've seen over the last 15 years. You have to kind of control what's going on in that aspect. And you don't have to figure out Taysom Hill, but you have to be able to feel out some tendencies. I think the first 15 minutes is going to be a real feeling out process for that Falcons defense. And props to Sean Payton earlier this week saying we're not going to name a starting quarterback because that made the Falcons defense prepare for Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, who are two completely different quarterbacks. And then, John, what you said is they're going to have a tough time running the ball, but Todd Gurley's found a little bit of a resurgence in his NFL career since he's came down to Atlanta. So they're going to have to sustain some long drives. They're going to have to run the ball effectively. But the big question is, are they going to be able to do that? I don't see this being a high-scoring game. But if the Falcons want to come out on top, they're going to have to get to about that 30-point mark.
Yeah, look, I think they have to play a nearly perfect executed game, right? And I think they obviously have got to be careful with the football first and foremost. And then they're just going to have to capitalize on some of these opportunities that could present themselves. Look, again, you're talking about an offense the Saints have, regardless of whether it was Winston or Jason or Tamus, listen to me, Taysom Hill. I'm thinking and trying to combine both of them because, seeing both. But whether you have whoever you have at quarterback, you still have Michael Thomas. You have Emmanuel Sanders, Traquan Smith. And, look, last week he takes a crazy shot. And again, obviously that warranted a foul. I'm sorry, a fine from the league, but not a foul. That's kind of a little bit shocking, obviously. But, he's got weapons to throw to. Deontay Harris there. I could see him stretch the field and try to stretch the field some. So I think the biggest thing here for me is Taysom goes through his reads. Don't be afraid to pull the trigger. You might see a little bit of struggles early on, but I think he's going to be able to build it for the long haul. So, Brendan, kind of wrapping up a little bit here. Conversely, we talked a little bit about Atlanta, what they have to do, but New Orleans, how do you see this game playing out, and what does New Orleans ultimately have to do to get to 8-2?
Well, like I said, I think it's going to be a low-scoring football game. Defense is going to have to step up and be big. And Taysom's really got to rely on his arsenal of offensive weapons. You want to talk about coming into a situation where you're a little blessed as a quarterback. You have the reigning offensive player of the year playing receiver for you, Emmanuel Sanders, who's a multi-time Pro Bowler. And then you have Alvin Kamara in the backfield, who could very well be the offensive player of the year in 2023. He's got to rely on those weapons. He's got to trust the game plan. But like I said, I think defensively you have to come out and you have to slow the roll in the run, make the Falcons one-dimensional, and allow guys like Cam Jordan, Marcus Davenport, who's been fantastic since he's came back from injury. Let those guys get after Matt Ryan, make him a little uncomfortable, and that's the way that the Saints will come out with the victory and go 8-2. So I'll take a prediction here and say somewhere around 21-14. When I say low scoring, I mean probably more low scoring than what Saints fans are used to.
Yeah, look, I think that's probably really fair. I take them 28-20 today. I think the Saints will be able to move the ball. Look, I think regardless of whoever's quarterback, again, whether it's Kamara in the passing game or you just pound the rock with Latavius Murray, I feel like they're going to be able to move the football. For me, don't get into those crazy situations where you have a 2nd and 10, or 2nd and 13, or a 3rd and 3rd and long. Make it manageable for Taysom Hill to be able to convert those. Lean on your big playmakers like Mike Thomas. I think they'll be fine. And defensively, do enough to get after Matt Ryan here. Don't let Julio Jones kill you. I know he's had some interesting games against the Saints. And then there's always that weird play, right? Whether it's the Shy Tuttle stiff arm or the Marshawn Lattimore buttception or whatever it is. There's always something crazy in this element of game that happens when you have the Falcons taking on the Saints. So I like it. I hope they think that after this will be 8-2. After this, the Saints are on the road for 3 straight weeks. And, oh, by the way, they play Atlanta again. For Brennan Boylan, I'm John Hendrix for Saints News Network. Be sure to tune into our halftime report with Kyle T. Mosley and Bob Rose, and we'll see you afterwards.